If you're new in town or just new to this whole podcast thing, you're tuning in to Lore by Night, the podcast that discusses all things vampiric with no fear of breaching the masquerade. In this episode, we are going to go through everything you need to know in order to create your own Ghoul in Vampire the Masquerade 5th Edition, or V5 as the Finbloods call it these days. Before we properly sink our teeth into tonight's episode, I wish to tell you what you will need in order to follow along with me to make your first Ghoul in V5. First and foremost, you'll need a copy of the V5 sourcebook, either as a physical or PDF copy, if you are a weirdo or allergic to books or something. If you are playing the game old school with the archaic devices known as pen and paper, you may have a friend, or two, who is willing to lend you their copy, but as more and more fledglings are seeking the likes of Discord and Roll20 to play, it is highly unlikely someone will just lend you a book from afar. You can purchase the physical books on most digital outlets, and most game shops do stock copies of V5, whilst PDF copies can officially be found on the Mordifius Entertainment website. You will also need the V5 Companion Guide, as that has the official rules for creating ghouls in V5, alongside a load of other goodies. You can obtain that for free via the World of Darkness website, once you have created a Paradox Interactive account. When creating a playable ghoul, it is important to understand how the Domitor's clan behaves, for their vampiric natures will affect anyone who will drink their blood. That said, I'm going to presume that if you are here, you know a fair amount about Vampire the Masquerade and have a basic understanding of how some, if not all, the clan mechanics work. You may have seen some online chronicles such as LA by Night, Chicago by Night, or Savage City by Caffeinated Conquests, or played Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, which led you here, or other online chronicles which in turn led you here anyway. Now, I won't go too in-depth with the clan laws for now. Instead, I will give you a very brief overview of the playable clans in Vampire the Masquerade 5th Edition. The Brujah were once philosopher monarchs of an ancient civilization, but are now deadbeat rebels. The Gangrel resemble the beasts associated with vampires, more so than any other clan. Clan Malkavian are broken by madness, each one ranging from unhinged to batshit crazy. The Nosferatu range from weird-looking to hideously disfigured upon their embrace, so they hide in sewers away from kind eyes. If you want to find out something, go and speak to one of them, as they hoard secrets. Toreadors enjoy every sensual pleasure that unlife has to offer them. They appear to like pretty things, but it is all terribly forced to make them seem as human as possible. The Tremere became vampires through treachery and trickery, wielding supernatural blood magic and impressive knowledge. Through their self-imposed entitlement and greed, the Ventrue are often the iron fist that rules a given city, imposing their own wills and the traditions onto kindred society. And, whilst not technically a clan, V5 also allows players to play as the clanless Kaitiv and Finbloods, who are far more fleshed out in V5 than they were in previous editions. Players also have the options of including clanless Sombra by using the Chicago by Night sourcebook, the Hakata with Cult of the Blood Gods, the Banu Hakim under the Ministry with the Camarilla and Anarch sourcebooks respectively, and the Ravno, Semitsi and Salubri in the V5 Companion Guide. Once you have the core book and any other source books you want, you will need a character sheet. The Mordifius Entertainment website offers free PDF copies, but these cannot be altered digitally. You will have to look elsewhere to find an alternative PDF character sheet. For this episode, I will be using the mrgon.rocksolidshells.com interactive sheet, but there are others available, should you wish to use a different format. Now, it should be noted that you cannot use previous edition character sheets when making V5 characters, for reasons we will soon explore. With that preparation shenanigans biting the dust, one can now begin to create their V5 character. There is no system or dice roll to be made when determining your character's Domitor, unless you really want to of course. It is entirely down to you which clan member you wish to feed upon. You can choose whichever one you want to roleplay in your story. Vampire the Masquerade uses the Storyteller system, which encourages players to become one with their character, to embrace them, as it were. The kindred of the World of Darkness, the universe in which Vampire the Masquerade exists, usually do not embrace mortals willy-nilly, nor do they ghoul mortals with the same lack of purpose, meaning that there is a reason as to why you were ghouled by your Domitor. What sort of person were they in life? What did they do? Do they still do it? Remember that ghouls still walk in the sunlight. How do they go about doing the things they do? Where and when were they ghouled? As a ghoul, you, your storyteller, and possibly the other players in your session should also consider some additional questions regarding the relationship between Domitor and ghoul. How does one educate them in the way of the kindred? Honesty and patience, or blood bonds and deception? Does one even bother telling them, or does one just dominate them into submission? Was your Domitor even the one responsible for finding you, or did a headhunter bring you to your Domitor? Do you know this headhunter? Does your Domitor offer you consent, or are you tricked with or without the use of disciplines? The answers to these questions dictate the sort of relationship you will have with your ghoul, personal or impersonal. These are just some of the questions that should come to mind when building your character, as it is their life as Kain, a human, that will determine the stats and concepts. Finally, you need to decide what sort of ghoul you are. The most common type of ghouls is a vassal, who are the sort of ghoul everyone is used to thinking of, blood puppets to their Domitors, their masters. Independents are just as they sound, they are not bound to their Domitor for one reason or another. Think as to what made the ghoul leave their Domitor, and how they obtained their blood without that one reliable source of vitae. Lore enthusiasts may wish to include the Revenants, families that are the result of centuries of vampiric contact, infusions of vampiric blood, and inbreeding have transformed the Revenant into a distinct type of supernatural creature. They are the most common within the Samitsi and the Sabbat, the independent Giovanni clan, and the Barley bloodline, the latter currently not available in V5 as of this recording. Turning our attention to the top of the character sheet, you should be able to fill most of these out by yourself, if you are new to this process at least. Name is obviously your character's name, but it is worth putting your actual name for the storyteller as well, who would receive a copy for your character sheet upon playing. Concept is your character's notions. For example, Tremere Stage Magician, Nosferatu Hacker, or Ventrue CEO might be good stereotypes for those particular clans, but there is nothing stopping you wanting to be a Brujar journalist or a Toreador kickboxer. In many ways, these two weirder examples fit the archetypes rather nicely, providing you use a bit of imagination. Chronicle is the name of the story in which you are playing. For example, London by night, New York by night, join the Lore by Night Discord server by night. Clan is your Domitor's clan, including Kaitif and Finnblood. It should be noted that ghouls do not have a generation, nor do they receive predator types, so leave these blank. As for my example character, Dominique Tenebrae appears to be a happy, carefree individual who has to insert herself in the centre of everyone's business. The reason for this, however, is not as shallow as it appears to be. She is trying to reach for the greater power within the company that she wishes to overthrow, for she believes she needs to know the secrets of those around her, who to keep, who to get rid of, who to groom, etc, etc. This lust and confidence for perfection caught the attention of her Domitor, Apollo of Clan La Sombra. With the recent development in his clan weakness and his position as sheriff, he requires someone to operate technology for him, know what is hip with the kids, and possibly someone to exceed him should he succumb to final death. He believes this manipulative Dominique Tenebrae is the perfect person to represent him. If you have done everything correctly, you should have 2 boxes left to fill out. Ambition and desire are very similar to each other in definition and as a gameplay mechanic. They are both things that your character wants, with desire being session by session wants, and ambition being a more long-term thing. Thus, some online interactive sheets only have ambition. Not only are they good for building your character, but they act as a way for characters to regain willpower, should either your ambition or desire are met. Willpower is a resource in Vampire the Masquerade 5th Edition that can be used sparingly to get you out of a tight situation. To add to this new information to Dominique, it is very clear to me that her ambition is to become in charge of the company, probably assuming the mantle of CEO, or more likely, the second in command, ruling things from the shadows. As for desire, she wishes to please Apollo and prove that she is worthy of the responsibilities he would place upon her. I imagine this would change after the first session, as previously stated. Now that you have established some lore regarding your character, you should have an idea what sort of person they are when you assign points into to your attributes. How do they solve their problems? Fighting, thinking, or talking? How do they naturally interact with the world? The attribute section is made up of 3 categories: physical, mental, and social, and the way you assign the points is by giving 1 attribute 4 points, 3 attributes 3 points, 4 attributes 2 points, and 1 attribute 1 point. The 4-pointer is what your character is best at, whilst the 1-pointer is what they are worst at. Once you have filled these out, you can then determine your character's health and willpower. In V5, health is your stamina plus 3, and willpower is composure plus resolve. As for Dominique, being somewhat of a business-focused socialite, it would make sense for her social skills to be the strongest and her mental skills a close second, making the physical skills the weaker. Being dedicated to her work, however, one can assume that her stamina would be the strongest of these physical stats. So, I have put 1 point in strength, 2 points in dexterity, 2 points in stamina, 3 points in charisma, 4 points in manipulation, 3 points in composure, 2 points in intelligence, 2 points in wits, and 3 points for resolve. As for her health and willpower, she has 2 points of stamina, plus 3 equals 5, which makes 5 points of health, and her willpower is 6, for she has 3 points in resolve and 3 points in composure. Dice rolls in Vampire the Masquerade are usually made up of 1 attribute plus a skill, as there are many ways of demonstrating feats of strength and intelligence, unless you are wanting to deadlift a donkey, for example, as that would be pure strength by my reckoning at least. The skills are divided into 3 sections. From left to right, you have physical, social, and mental. The way you can distribute points in V5 can be done in 3 ways. Your character might be a jack-of-all-trades sort of character, for which you put 1 skill at 3 points, 8 skills at 2 points, and 10 skills at 1 point. Now they could be more balanced, in which you use 3 skills at 3, 3 skills at 2, and 7 skills at 1, or they could be more of a specialist, in which you use 1 skill at 4, 3 skills at 3, 3 skills at 2, and 3 skills at 1. Again, think how they solve their problems: fighting, thinking, or talking. How do they naturally interact with the world? Dominique had her life dictated to her. She is a strong, independent businesswoman who happens to be better at most with tech, but not an IT specialist. She, in my mind at least, very much fits under the specialist skill distribution. I have put 1 point into drive, 3 points into etiquette, 1 point in intimidation, 2 points in leadership, 4 points in persuasion, 3 points into subterfuge, 2 points into academics, 1 point into awareness, 3 points into finance, and 2 points into technology. If you have put any points into academics, craft, performance, and science, you have to assign specialties to them. You can also take 1 more specialty in any other skill you have put points in. Now, as Dominique has 2 points in academics, I have decided to assign her a business specialty. I have also decided to give her a subterfuge specialty that is titled Rumour Spreading. Next we move on to disciplines, which are your vampiric blood-based powers. If you are creating mortal characters, skip over this section for obvious reasons. As for ghouls, your character gains a level 1 discipline power in a discipline possessed by your Domitor. I believe it would make the most sense for Dominic to possess Dominate, specifically using Compel. Next we move on to advantages, which is where you purchase merits and flaws for your character. You have to spend 7 points plus 2 points in flaws. Again, these build upon your character's backstory and also cement a place for them to sleep. If you so choose, of course. Ghouls and mortals cannot choose vampire-specific merits and flaws, including but not limited to archaic, domain, feeding, herd, mythic, status, or thin-blooded. For Dominique, I have given her 3 points in resources, 2 points in haven, 2 points in despised, which is one of the flaws, and I've also given her the blood empathy ghoul merit, which you can find in the V5 companion guide. We have very nearly finished creating your first V5 ghoul. Now you need to come up with the convictions and touchstones. We all have people who are very close to us, whether we hate them or we love them. These are the touchstones in V5. The convictions are moral or immoral guidelines your character follows. You would roleplay these, and you can restore willpower should you stick to them, or risk having stains to your humanity should you go against them. They usually take the form of, I will always do this, or I will always do that. You can choose up to 3 convictions, and for every conviction you choose, you must have the same number of touchstones that connect to that particular conviction. Dominique has 3 convictions and therefore must have 3 touchstones. Her first conviction, Might Makes Right, is connected to Mr. Crawford, who is the CEO of the company, who she considers to be a foe of sorts. Her second conviction, I Must Always Perform My Best, is connected to her older sister Cassandra Tenebrae, who she considers to be more of a friendly rival. The final conviction is, I Will Bow Down to No Mortal Man, which is connected to her ex-boyfriend Kyle, who she hates. The convictions are very similar to the Chronicle tenets, but you and the other player should decide what these should be. For example, you and the other players may decide not to harm children in the game. Consider these house rules, as it were. Once all of this is done, set your humanity to 7. Ghouls and mortals do not get freebie points, but you should know how to spend experience points after each session. To increase an attribute, it is the new level times 5. To increase a skill, it is the new level times 3. To have a new specialty, you spend 3 experience points. To increase a blood sorcery ritual, it is the ritual level times 3. Now, if you become a Fimblood and you wish to learn a Fimblood formula, it is the formula level times 3. To gain a new advantage, that is 3 points per dot, and to increase your blood potency, that is the new level times 10. You may have noticed I missed out disciplines. Don't worry, I haven't forgotten. Ghouls can purchase additional level 1 powers at the cost of 10 experience points each, but they must belong to the disciplines possessed by their Domitor. But with all of that sorted, you can finally say that you have made presumably your first Vampire the Masquerade 5th Edition Ghoul. Yes, the book has all that you need to understand the character creation process, but I have found that it sometimes helps to have someone walk you through the process, rather than nag your storyteller 100 times. To be kept updated, follow the Lore by Night VTM Twitter and Instagram pages to find out when we will upload each episode. You can also find out by subscribing to the YouTube channel and clicking on the little bell, as you will be immediately notified when the latest episode is live. Until next time, farewell.